In this video, I'm going to talk about the mean, which is a measure of average or central tendency. So the mean is the sum of values in a data set divided by the number of values. And sum just means all the numbers added together. Okay, so to find the mean of the data set, all you have to do is add all the values and then divide that sum by n. Okay, so in our first example, we're going to find the mean, aka average, or midpoint of the numbers 5.4 and 8.7. So all we have to do is add those up, 5.4 plus 8.7, and I'm going to write parentheses here. These are important because we want to add these first before dividing by 2. Okay, the other way to write this is 5.4 plus 8.7 divided by 2 that way. So these are the exact same problems, just written horizontally and then one's vertically. So when you put this in the calculator, make sure to either use parentheses, 5.4 plus 8.7 divided by 2. You want to make sure your calculator does that addition first, and you're going to get 7.05. The other thing you could do is just do 5.4 plus 8.7, enter, and then divide it by 2, and that way you don't have to worry about the parentheses. And if you put you could also use the N over D button, the fraction button, and do 5.4 plus 8.7, and you could do it that way if you have a fraction button on your calculator. Let's look at example 2. According to the Tornado Archive and Lansing State Journal, this is a list of number of tornadoes in Michigan each year from the years 2015 to 2021. What is the mean number of tornadoes in a year over this time period, round to a whole number? So we're going to take all of those numbers and we're going to add them up. So that's the first step. So we're going to add 16 plus 16 plus 10 plus 16 plus 8 plus 3 plus 18. We're going to add those all together and we're going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Since there's 7 tornadoes, we're going to divide by 7. So I'm going to add all those up. And we get 87. I always like to write down my sum just in case I make a mistake. Then I can go back and figure out which part I made a mistake on and then divide it by 7. And we get, oh, I didn't mean to divide that by 7 again. It's this first number. It's this 12. 0.42857 ... Now it says in the problem round to the whole number because we're looking for the mean number of tornadoes. So we're going to round to the nearest whole number, and the 4 tells us to round down to the 12. So there was about 12 tornadoes on average during per year over this time period. So now we're going to find the mean for group data, and this is a little bit more complicated than the last couple of examples because we don't have a list of actual data. So take this example where we have this data set of ages of people in the store. So this means frequency of 15 means there's 15 people in the store that are between 1 and 20 years of age. 34 people are between 21 and 40. 32 are between 41 and 60 years of age, and so on. So I don't actually know all of the ages. I just know there's 15 between this range. And so if I knew all the ages, I could just add them up and divide by the total and find the mean, and I would be done. But since I have this range, I need to approach this a little bit differently so I can find an average. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first find the midpoints of each class, and I'm basically going to average those. And so step 1, find the midpoint for each class by averaging the low and high values of the class. And so I'm going to take the 1 and the 20, that's the low and high, and I'm going to add those together and I'm going to divide by 2. So 20 plus 1 is 21, divided by 2 is 10.5. So my midpoint, the very middle of that class, is 10.5. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. So 21 plus 40 divided by 2 is 30.5. And then I'm going to add 41 plus 60 divided by 2, and I get 50.5. And notice here, they're increasing by 20 each time, so you can actually use that pattern if you want, if that's even easier for you. So 61 plus 80, low plus high, divided by 2, and I get 70.5. And then 81 plus 100 divided by 2, and I get 90.5. So I approximate the middle because I don't know where the ages are in that range. So I just figure, well, a good approximation is let's just take the middle. And then I'm going to multiply by how many I have because I'm really just, remember multiplication is just repeated addition. So it's like I'm adding 10.5 up 15 times because I want to find this average. So I'm going to do 10.5 times 15. Okay, and then I get 157.5. And then I'm going to do 34 times 30.5. And I get 1037. And then I'm going to take this midpoint, 50.5, and I'm going to multiply it by 32, by that frequency. And I get 1,616. And then I take this frequency, 70.5, and multiply by 12, and I get 846. And then I take 90.5, and I multiply by 2, and I get 181. And so then I'm going to add these all together. I'm going to find my sum. So really all I'm doing here is I'm really just finding the average of these midpoints. So the next step is we're going to add all of these up. So we're on step 3 right now, and we're going to label this result sum. So if I add all of these up, I get a sum of 3,837.5. Okay. And then step 4 is I'm going to add the frequency column. So if I add all of those numbers up, I get 95. So this is the number of values. And remember, when we want to find the mean, we just take the sum. So the mean is the sum divided by the number of values. So we're going to do that. We're going to take 3,837.5 and divide by 95. So 3,837, I think I said 75, I meant 37.5 divided by 95. And then we get a mean. Now we have a long decimal here, and so this is where just pay attention to the rounding directions. In this case, we're supposed to round in the nearest whole number. So I'm just going to say approximately, that would be approximately 40. And you can always look at the table and ask yourself, does this make sense? That can sometimes, prevent mistakes. So look at the ages here, and does 40 years of age seem like a good average? And I would say, yeah, it's about in the middle. If you got an answer like, let's say 120, and you looked at the table, you could see easily, okay, I have no one here is 120 years old, so I must have done something wrong. So that's just a good way to double check that you're on the right track.